Hey everyone, I'm Peter and welcome to Mild Fuzz TV's Top 50 Movies of the Decade. This is going to be a 10-part series where every member of Mild Fuzz TV gives their own unique top 50 movies of the 2010s. The participants, of course, other than myself, are Matt, Connor, Tim, and Tara. There'll be 5 picks per person per episode, and this will take place over a number of weeks, and hopefully you enjoy everyone's picks. This has been edited together. Most people were recorded separately, with me there for all of them, so hopefully you have fun with us. Probably the most expansive, ridiculous, over-the-top, bloated top list we've ever done. This is part 1, of course, and will feature numbers 50 through 46 for everyone. So here we go. Here's the thing. Your list, to sort of do a little bit of preamble here about what I expect from you, your list might be the wackiest. Well, that's not true.
It could
be. Tim could also be the wackiest.
Yeah, that's Tim's brand. That's Tim's brand, though. Mine is all over the place.
Yours is the only one that may have Kong Skull Island on it, though.
Spoiler, it might. And it might be unnaturally high. Right? Because what is this? These are the 50 best movies according to me, right? And so my criteria is rewatchability, and mainly that's it, right? What makes a great movie to me is something that's very rewatchable. But there's some others sprinkled in here that maybe I've only seen once, and once was enough, but it's still a damn good movie. So, and some of them just once because I might have just seen it, last month. So I haven't had a chance to see it more than once.
But I expect some silliness, but I also expect some other things. I don't expect The Boy. That is something I expect.
Definitely not. There's quite a bit of horror, and I blame you and Tim for that. Mainly you.
I've been logging all my movies, consistently since 2015, and a smattering in 2014. So I've got a lot more information on lists of every year, top 50 or whatever of however many I watched that year, ratings, rankings, everything from the last 5 years. So I found the back half of the decade much easier to get. So I had a lot more to go on that, and I just kind of look at what I had before, maybe tweak things here or there, and then I had to filter in the first 5 years, which was much harder because I had to remember them all. So I had a short list down to about 200 films, which is still, a considerable amount to try and get down to 50.
It actually was a little difficult because we did, the top 50 horror movies of the decade. So I kind of figured, I would take that list and, you don't just want it to be the same. But I was kind of figuring, what could I take out of that? And then what could I add? And I thought it would be, because I mostly watch horror movies, and one interesting thing about going through the list is I feel like when I was younger, I was a much more varied movie watcher, because I would in high school, and I actually blame comic books for this, because before I got into comics, I was really into movies, and high school and college, instead of going to the comic book shop every Wednesday, I would go to Best Buy or whatever and get whatever the new releases were. And I always skewed towards horror and genre stuff, but I also did I would get a lot of dramas and comedies and whatnot. And looking back at the stuff that I really liked in the last 10 years, it was overwhelmingly a lot of mostly genre stuff. And even thinking about the stuff this year, there's a lot of stuff I want to see, but I just haven't gotten around to yet, like The Irishman or Uncut Gems, and hopefully I'll see him at some point. But it's when you get older, you have a job, you got time, and then we're doing the shows for the podcast. It's harder and harder to see more and more kind of different varied stuff. But regardless of that, so basically I was kind of starting with the base of all right, I have my horror movie list. Let's see what I can take out and what I can add. I ended up having more non-horror stuff than I originally thought. So I thought it would kind of be, down the middle. I would, have my top 25 horror movies and then just add whatever other movies about that. But then I think it ended up even being less than that.
Yeah, the top 20 were pretty easy for me. I definitely knew what my top 5 were, just right off the bat. And then I kept thinking yeah, that one's good. And those were pretty came to me pretty quick. But then it got kind of, I don't know, tricky. There's a lot of great movies that I had to leave off. I kept going to Google and just typing in like movies of 2010 or popular movies or dramas or horror, and then I forgot like categories altogether. So there's a lot of movies I really feel like I might have missed.
I mean, it's good
hopefully
that
not.
it's good that you felt that you were having to cut things though, because that makes it a good list. Because it means that you had to actually make some tough choices.
I did, especially around the end.
Yeah, which is why when we get to selections that I think are stupid, I'll be heavily critical because you're telling me these were tough choices that you made.
This is my top 50 movies, not Peter's top 50 movies. Why are you going to get critical on my list?
I started keeping records in 2007, so I had the full decade kept in records. So I just had to filter, took out all the ratings below a certain number. Okay, that gives me the first shortlist. Also, in doing this, I also already did my top 50 horror of the decade, my top 25 sci-fi. So I basically took those, I merged them together. So I sort of,
sprinkled in whatever else.
So I merged them together, everything being in the right place where they should between each other, and then just started adding in all the other non-horror and sci-fi movies, and just went that way and came up with this. So what sort of shortlist I had before this, I don't know. So was it easy? Was it hard? Honestly, it wasn't that hard, barring maybe just deciding the bottom end, just to decide what made it on and what didn't around that area. Next thing I have to ask, and I am making everyone do this for the record. Hey Gus, okay. What we're going to do is I am going to get you
Checklist.
to guess the number ones from the other people.
Oh, man.
So first up, make a guess for Tim.
Tim's easy. Tim's is Hellboy. He's not going to be able to help himself.
Okay,
and there's only been one Hellboy movie this decade, correct?
That is true.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's got to be one of two things. It's The Boy or Hellboy.
Oh, well, he's a horror guy, so I'm going to pick a horror movie. Cabin in the Woods?
It's either The Boy or Hellboy. Like, boys of the time.
No, I'm actually going to guess The Witch. That's my educated guess.
He really liked the Vivitch that much, huh?
Yeah.
What do you think Connor's number one is?
That little red imp. What is he like?
I don't know. See, I don't know what he watches, though. That's the thing. I know. I can tell he's not going to be a Marvel movie.
Yeah, I feel like he's not as hot with like the comic book movies as much, but he does like Star Wars. But I don't know. Has he liked the new ones as much?
I don't know. He has like pretty varied taste, but he's also a Star Wars fanboy.
Would it be The Last Jedi?
Don't think he would put Star Wars as number one, though.
Yeah, I don't got a guess for Connor.
Did he like The Last Jedi more than The Force Awakens?
I'm pretty sure he did, yeah. I'm pretty sure he's a big Last Jedi supporter.
Okay. I'm going to go with that.
There's a few things that could become close, but I do actually genuinely... I honestly think he's going to put Last Jedi.
Yeah, well, I'll just say The Last Jedi.
And I'm going to say for him, it's going to be Baby Driver.
All right, next up, me.
You. Oh, God. What?
Yours literally could be anything. It's probably something I haven't seen at this point. Or it could be something you made me watch.
I'm going to go with Dark Knight Rises.
Okay.
I mean, I'm confident that's at least on your list.
You wouldn't have the thing to put The Dark Knight Rises number one. Or would you?
I don't think it's the same as mine.
I mean, I guess maybe I have a little bit of an advantage because I know your horror list, but I feel like it's probably going to mirror that, and I'm going to say It Follows for you.
Is it Under the Skin? Is it something like Gravity?
Well, I know what your number one sci-fi pick is, and I'm pretty sure I know your number one horror film, so I can kind of go between those.
Can't be a James Cameron movie because he hasn't released really anything.
No, he literally hasn't, because the Avatar came out in 2009.
And it's not a Terminator, I can tell you that much.
Your number one movie is Drive.
I can see the logic.
That movie sucks, and you like it.
Shoot, yeah, I'll just say Under the Skin. I'll throw a wild guess out there.
All right, Under the Skin. Admittedly, I realise that you have almost nothing to go on here, but you do have to throw out a guess for Tara as well. So,
what's Tara's taste here?
Well, we do a sci-fi movie podcast, so maybe veering towards sci-fi may be a good start.
Obviously, she likes sci-fi, so
I have no idea.
How's she feel about the Apes movies?
Loves them.
Or sci-fi. You know what? Oh man, actually, I want to change Pete's to Mad Max. Pete loves Mad Max. I'm switching that.
And I know I'm pretty sure she's a Trekkie. I know for some reason I think she likes Star Trek. So I'm gonna say.
Do you know what I like there is that when you said for some reason, it wasn't like for some reason I know that, it was for some reason she likes Star Trek.
I'll never understand why anyone likes Star Trek, but I'll say the.
So what type of sci-fi are we talking about with Tara? Is it Star Trek sci-fi? Is it?
She does love Star Trek. Her favorite movie of all time though is 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, that would be none. That would be none. Let me look.
I'm going to guess Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
I was going to say that whatever that third Star Trek movie was, but I feel like that'd be too high for number one. But maybe she liked Blade Runner 2049.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right.
I don't know. I'm throwing it out there. I'm trying to think what some of the bigger big sci-fi movies were.
I don't know. Inception.
I'm gonna say, just because I enjoy this film, it's not sci-fi, but also wait. How's she feel about Refn? She more like me with Refn or you with Refn?
Oh, she hated Drive. Does that give you?
Okay, it's not Drive then. Well, if she liked sci-fi, I'll just throw out Edge of Tomorrow.
Finally, Matt.
It's definitely something stupid with Matt.
This is very tough because obviously Matt loves Star Wars, but he does love Disney too.
Don't get me wrong, I think you're going to have Kong Skull Island at a ridiculously high number. I don't think you've got the balls to put it at number one.
Let me just change things right now. Prove Pete wrong.
Definitely something stupid. Like he definitely had Kong Skull Island in his top 15.
Only thing I know about Matt is that he likes King Kong and he likes the Avengers.
I could go like and he loves Marvel. So is it going to be a Marvel movie, like a Pixar movie?
Part of me wants to be really wacky with this and just say like Into the Spider-Verse because I could see that being your pick.
I'm pretty sure he's a big Superman fan, but all the Superman movies were garbage.
Was it any Viking movies? Was it any bear movies? I don't think there was.
There's a little bear movie called The Revenant, but it doesn't end well for the bear.
I don't think that's your type of bear movie.
Although, let's be nice on Twitter, people.
Star Wars is very important to Matt, so I am gonna, and I believe he has said that his favorite Star Wars movie is Solo, or at least pretty high up there. So I think I will say Solo for him. Solo, a Star Wars story.
Okay.
I don't know, man. Like I don't. Okay. Did he like Star Wars: The Last Jedi?
I don't know. Toy Story 3.
I'm going to be ballsy. I'm going to say Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse is singing to me.
Right.
I don't know why, but Spider-Verse is singing to me.
How about Mad Max Fury Road?
All right. Without further ado, Matt, what is your number 50?
So, number 50. Movie I don't think that Pete has seen, although when we used to do the other show where we would have to watch, give each other, people would vote, and whatnot. I put this up there, but it didn't win. But it's a movie. Should have the years next to these, but I don't because I didn't think that far ahead. They're on the papers, although they're on the floor now. But anyways, it's Goon, hockey movie. We're gonna, Sean William Scott plays Doug Glatt, who never played hockey before, but he's really good at fighting. So the minor league team of his hometown give him a job. Basically, just if a guy's out there causing problems, you go cause him problems. Really entertaining, really a lot of fun. It's despite being hyper violent because it's a hockey movie, there's a lot of heart to it. There's a love interest in Alison Pill. She's very, very good. And written by Jay Baruchel. He directed the sequel, which I don't find as good. It's a little bit better made. You can tell there's a little bit more of a budget, but just a whole lot of heart, and that's why I love it.
I can't believe your first pick was a hockey movie. Like you literally went full Matt in the very first pick.
I did. No, don't forget, this was the same guy last year that had a surf documentary in it at number 10 that I had seen maybe 2 weeks before.
My number 50 is Lock. This is a movie with Tom Hardy in a car for 90 minutes on his own on the phone. And that's it. And I say 9 minutes. It might be slightly longer. And
it's riveting. And that's not sarcasm. It's actually riveting.
No, it's like genuinely fantastic. It takes a hell of an actor to be able to pull that off. To just be able to sit there and be so engaging for that long. And there is a semblance of a plot that's driving what he's doing. That was not an intentional pun. There is some sort of momentum there. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter. It is just every single conversation with who he's talking to, what it's revealing about his character each time. It's peeling back these layers. And it's
the more he pushes on the pedal, the more momentum it gets.
Yeah. Shut up. I hate myself for starting this off with a pun.
I gotta start off with a bang, and I gotta give it up for my boy Hellboy, 2019 version. Obviously, I would have loved to have put the Guillermo del Toro versions on this list, but unfortunately, they did not come out this decade. But Hellboy always has representation in every decade, luckily. So, I'm
going to tell you something right now, Tim. Two people guessed that as your number one.
I mean, I love the movie dearly, but I mean, come on, it's not I've said as much that it's not a good movie, but I think it's thoroughly entertaining. It's batshit crazy, and again, just thinking about good times I've had in the theater. Like I saw this with 3 of my friends, and we were laughing the whole time, and it was a great time. So it's and obviously I love Hellboy, the comic book and everything, and it doesn't measure up to that or the old movies, but I do think it is a very dumb, silly blast. So I'm not gonna lie and say it's a well-made movie at all. It's not, but I think it is super fun, especially if you like Hellboy and big dumb action stuff. So I'll give it up for Hellboy.
Especially if you like shit underworld style movie plots, yes.
Well, maybe I got to go back and watch Underworld then.
Yeah, I don't approve. I don't approve of any of this.
Jojo Rabbit.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah, a recent entry. It's probably, I don't know if it's my favorite one from this year, but I think so. I don't really have a lot of movies from 2019 on here, so.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I can't comment on this one because it just came out in the UK literally today at the time of recording. So I'll be seeing it
really?
soon.
So it's not even a 2019 movie for you?
I would still count it as 2019. I always count it from its release in its own country for years.
Right.
Always.
Okay. It's a Taika Waititi movie based around a child whose best friend is Hitler, played by Taika Waititi.
Imaginary.
The comedy's good. The emotion's really good. The cinematography's good. And of course, the dialogue is perfect.
Just
hilarious.
One key detail: imaginary best friend. I think we need to specify that.
Yes, imaginary best friend. You
just said best friend, and I'm like, wait a minute. My understanding of this movie is maybe a bit off. If that's exactly true.
Yes. Great movie from this year.
My number 50 is A Woman Walks Home Alone at Night. This will be no surprise if you watch my top horror list, but this is a black and white. This is a Western Iranian vampire romance. I probably said that in the wrong order, but it doesn't really matter. The point is all those genres collide, and it is super stylish. It is visually a feast. The way the actress who plays the vampire, which is a vampire movie. I mean, I kind of said that, yeah, but
yeah, you did.
she has this unique way of moving. The camera will just sit in these beautiful wide shots. We'll see her stalking people in the streets. There's something just so hypnotic about it, and the black and white image adds to that. But like, it's her movement, it's her skateboarding down a road. It's all these weird, wonderful little things, and it's actually a very simple story. Watching it again for streams about a year ago or so, like, there's very little plot in it. It's very simple, sort of just boy meets vampire girl, and they kind of hit it off, and that's about it. But
yeah, it's a great movie. I don't remember much in terms of, like, say, plot. I don't it's all just the visuals and the direction that sticks in my mind. And I watched it roughly as it came out, not long after, and I can still vividly picture a lot of it.
Yeah, so very moody, very, very atmospheric, and I think it might have been a debut film as well from Amapur. So
Number 49 is a comedy. I would have to say at this point it's underrated because it didn't get that much love at the theater, but it's the Lonely Island movie, Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping. When we talk rewatchability, this is it. There are just parts from this that I can watch over and over and over again. And again, maybe not the best movie. It's not going to land with everybody, but I love Sandberg so much in it because he's so unrestrained.
We are 2 for 2 in ones I've not seen. Like
Nice.
We're actually 2 for 2 that I've not seen. This is wonderful.
Yeah. I would recommend. Well, it all depends how you feel about Lonely Island because it's very Lonely Island.
My number 49 is Birdman.
Caw.
You done? So Birdman stars Michael Keaton, who used to play a superhero called Birdman, and he's kind of a bit washed up, doing some stuff here or there, and there are some breaks in his reality as to what is going on as he performs in a stage play. And it is all shot so that it visually appears to be one take. Lots of little cheats and tricks, but it is presented in the illusion of one take. And the camera work, the cinematography is spectacular throughout. But then it has a lot of heart in the characters, and it really comes together at the end for me. That brings all this. It's not just the fancy camera work that makes it work. It's the characters and the acting that really kind of just push it above just more than the sum of its parts at the end.
Yeah, no, Birdman's great. Technical feast, of course. And of course, I do like the idea that Sam Mendes saw that and went, you know what, I'm going to one up this. I'm going to do that exact thing, but I'm going to do it in World War I. That's much harder.
So this one was easy. I just took my number 50 and removed the words hell from it. My number 49 is The Boy. It's just a terrific little, kind of, I guess, more your art house kind of horror, but it's
what our house?
Yeah,
shit house more like.
This is a very unique story about a boy with a surprise ending that's just wonderfully bananas, and it's a movie that deserves love because it gets some unjust hate for it. So if I have to be the martyr that just slings himself on the internet and takes all the hate for liking this movie, I'll gladly do it because it deserves it. And again, you look at a lot of different factors with the list, and again, movie stuff aside, it's given us so many wonderful jokes and memes about it that it's hard not to give it some representation.
Unjust my ass.
49 is John Wick. Probably one of the better action franchises that we've had in recent years. Really does a good I don't know, like a facelift for the gung fu genre of action films. I actually went to the movie reluctant. I was told to go by a friend, and they paid for my ticket, so I went and saw it. But I loved it. I loved the whole almost comic book-esque style of this world. But it is very techno looking. It was really cool. Yeah. And I liked all the action.
Yeah, it's pretty much all on the stunts and the gunplay and all that stuff. That's the vast majority of why you should see it and why it works.
Really, it really works. And I like the lore that gets set up, which gets explored in the other sequels, which I do also really like, but the first one really really kind of blew me away.
My number 49 is The Hateful Eight. Not a lot of Tarantino on Connor's list, I suspect.
I'm not sure I saw any Tarantino from this decade.
Of course you didn't. Hateful Eight is... I love a bottle movie. People know I love a bottle movie. Where all the characters are set in one place. And there's a little bit of a journey to the location at the start of this, but it's mostly set in a haberdashery, and it's these 8 characters and possibly some others that maybe show up eventually, but it's Tarantino's like sharp dialogue. That man just knows how to write characters talking to each other. Like, he can literally write a movie with 2 characters at a table talking to each other for 2 hours, and it would be the most riveting thing ever. And it practically did that with Inglourious Basterds to an extent. So like, this is wonderful, intense. It's much like a lot of Tarantino stuff, and I don't mean this in a punny way because he made Pulp Fiction, but it's very pulpy. It's very, everything Tarantino does is about a celebration of cinema. You can feel all the westerns and all the things that he is harkening back to, all the little cinematic techniques, the fact that it's shot in 70mm, the fact that you've got Ennio Morricone doing the score, all of it. It feels so authentically old-timey, despite the fact that it came out in 2015, and despite the fact that it's all these actors, who by the way are great. You got Sam Jackson, you got Kurt Russell, Walton Goggins being Walton Goggins, and it's delightful.
What it means is it's the usual gang.
To be fair, this was only Walton Goggins' second Tarantino film. He wasn't a regular yet, I don't think.
Okay, fine.
That's what made him a regular. Well, to be fair, Kurt Russell was only in Death Proof before this. That's only his second too, I think.
Okay.
I mean, Samuel Jackson, I'll give you. He's been in like almost every one, but
yeah.
but I'm not giving you some of the others.
Number 48, sci-fi movie from the Cloverfield universe. Probably the I would say the best Cloverfield movie, and that is number 10, Cloverfield Lane. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, John Goodman. Basically, that's it. They carry this whole movie, trapped in a bunker. Very, very sci-fi at the end. It's those places I was not expecting.
Very claustrophobic. Very, like they have one set. I mean, for the majority of the movie, it's just one little set.
And Goodman kind of carries it. I mean, Mary Elizabeth Winstead has to play the straight woman almost, right? Like, because it's John Goodman that's having the rantings of a madman, and throughout the movie, you're not quite sure if he's actually, aliens have invaded and he saved everybody that's in this bunker, or if he's just nuts and has kidnapped this poor woman. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed. One of the better movie-going experiences I can remember, just because I remember the trailer dropping on us, and then the movie was out.
Oh yeah, the trailer was like a month before the movie came out. It was like really quickly. Which they actually upped with the third one, because they dropped the trailer like hours before it was up on Netflix.
Yeah, on the Super Bowl, and they said watch after the game ends. And Cloverfield Paradox, not that good, but not at all.
But I mean,
10 Cloverfield Lane.
My 48 is a British film called Four Lions. This is a film about 4 wannabe terrorists in the UK, and seeing how they're complete idiots, essentially. It's a it's full blown comedy. This, probably should say, because otherwise that sounds kind of weird. It's a fantastically funny movie, this, and it completely looks at these very serious things, and horrifying for a lot of people, and just completely makes fun of it. It takes this idea of homegrown terrorism and laughs in its face, and it's a wonderful little movie. Love it.
So now we're kind of leaving the, I guess, kind of the genre territory. This is a very strange movie that has a lot of stuff I like in it. It's lower on the list because I don't know if it completely nails everything and comes together, but I really like a lot of what is there and what it's saying, and that is Sorry to Bother You. I don't know if you've seen this. I did see this, yeah. So it's a comedy, but it's it's very weird. It feels really of the times, because there's like, it's a lot of stuff about, class and um, whatnot, and it ends up going really, really weird, like, in the end of it, which normally I do like in movies. I think this maybe might. I don't say it often, but maybe it might have been a little actually worked a bit better if it didn't go so weird. But I do appreciate the craziness that they're going, and yeah, like wonderful performances. The main character, the actor is Lakeith Stanfield or something like that.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically he is like a guy who kind of starts this like telemarketing job, and he ends up getting like really successful at it. It's so he's a black man, but they talk about when you're selling stuff, you use like your white man's voice, and then he uses I think it ends up being like David Cross's voice when he's talking.
Yeah, it's David Cross who dubs it in. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like he's able to get really successful and sells a bunch of stuff, and then like the more money and stuff he makes, the more he ends up kind of losing like touch with his friends and stuff who are all like like kind of like more artsy just trying making money to survive and get by kind of people. And then he kind of it's one of those kind of classic stories where he like kind of loses his way, turns his back on him, and then the like some of the other characters they want to start a union, and then so there's like stuff about that and like busting that up, and it's just like kind of shows like how when you make money you kind of turn your back on ideals and become part of the enemy of like the person that you're against before. Which I really like. I like kind of all that class stuff, and I like having to work a crappy job. I've worked at call centers before, and they're horrible. So I really relate to that. And yeah, but like a lot of I think really cool stuff, and like interesting like visual style to it. Like like nice little touches when they like when he's making a call, it kind of like drops him into like the person's actual house and stuff, which is cool and visually interesting.
Number 48 is Brooklyn. It's a love story with Saoirse Ronan. She's a woman who's coming of age and moves to America from Ireland. It's a really beautiful, like, period piece film, and surprisingly funny and very relatable. I thought it was really, really well done and beautiful film.
This is interesting because I'm pretty confident in saying you'll be the only person to have this on your list. I've not seen it, obviously. I like these types of period pieces tend to deter me, but
it's really good.
I mean,
you probably like it. I mean, it is a love story, but it's more complicated than that.
Sure. It's
mostly about her like being away from home, and it's surprisingly really funny and very emotional. There's a strange scene where she's like in I don't want to say like a soup kitchen, and with a bunch of other Irish immigrants, and like an old man starts singing. It's just such a beautiful moment that I started crying in the theater. Felt like such a chump, but I am a sucker for a good period piece film.
I think if we want to try and get Tim to watch this, we're going to have to like disguise it as a Leprechaun spin-off.
Yeah, that's a solid saga.
My number 48 is The Witch, and that of course is the Robert Eggers horror film from 2016, I think, by the time it was publicly released. Slow, brooding, it has something to say, it's about something, it's about, Anna Taylor-Joy's character. The dialogue can be rough, you might need subtitles because it's all in this old English, and it's unrelentlessly authentic.
I will consider myself an expert in Old English, thank you very much.
Fine. I don't care. I need subtitles. But what it does so well is that over the course, it kind of convinces you why the pressures upon this young woman would lead her to even, going the way it goes as the movie goes on. Wonderful, and it's slow, and it's brooding, and of course, I know Tim's going to have it very high because there's a goat in it, and he loves goats. So, I'm pretty sure Black Phillip would be his favourite character of the decade if it wasn't for the fact that the boy came out and maybe stole the thunder a little bit. no, The Witch is phenomenal, and it's one of those movies that benefits from more viewings. Like I think when you see it a second time, knowing what it is, you kind of really just bask in the details a bit more and really take in like all the way it's setting the things up that it gets to at the end. So
I swear I'm going to watch it eventually. I keep saying this, I'll get to it this, next October, and then October gets busy, or I go on holiday, and it just doesn't get done every single year.
Number 47. This was the late edition. I swapped out another horror movie, so it's a horror. I have The Conjuring here. Conjuring's good. It's but there's a movie that I like from Blumhouse a little bit more than The Conjuring, and that's Happy Death Day. Nice surprise. Went and saw this on a whim with the wife on date night, and was pleasantly surprised with the slasher film meets Groundhog Day premise, and the main actress.
Yeah,
super underrated.
Jessica Roth is really good in that movie. Her character has such a good arc. It's wonderful. And Matt, I mean, can you just acknowledge for a second that we're sitting here and you're praising the works of one Scott Lobdell?
I know he's. Although that said, he didn't come back for the sequel. The sequel was all the director. He did get characters based on. Yeah. And Death Day 2 was okay. I thought about putting that one because it gets a little bit more complex, but that first one really paves the way.
Oh, sure.
And, yeah.
I mean, I enjoy the second one. It's just a fun sci-fi movie. Obviously, any guise of it being a horror movie is gone in the second one because
it's just sci-fi.
It has to just go full sci-fi comedy because that's the only way it can go forward. Like to expand the plot.
And as a fan of slasher movies, I feel like it really plays with the conventions because you're watching her get killed over and over again in different ways, and some more playful than others. Some just completely brutal. Like it never shies away from being a slasher movie, and that's what I appreciated.
It was genuinely funny. It had a lot of heart, a lot more heart than I think most people would expect.
Yeah.
I mean, and surprisingly, it was PG-13, so it didn't get to be that violent, which is maybe the one thing that's missing. Like, I mean, if that had been the one thing that push it over the edge is have some gore, but ultimately because all the things that are good about it don't really rely on the violence or even the horror. It relies on the character and the story and all that stuff. So, no, Happy Death is really good.
My number 47 is Interstellar. You look like you were ready to give me shit about whatever this was already.
There was a long pause. There was a long pause that implied that I was going to hate whatever this was. But go on, Interstellar, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it is the last Nolan movie that I loved. Because Dunkirk was boring.
There's only been one since then. You said that as if it's been, like 5 movies.
I know, but that's how much I really dislike Dunkirk. So that movie was just so boring. Hopefully we can turn it around. But Interstellar, yeah. I mean, everyone knows what Interstellar is. It's the space movie, and it clues in the name. Lots of timey-wimey fun shenanigans. The ending goes places. Some great music that I love. There's a technical trick with it all being more or less the same speed, 120 BPM, for a very good reason. In that it's in time with a clock, and then at a certain point in the movie, that just breaks, and things go kind of haywire, and it's a lot of fun with that. And the acting's fantastic. Still has one of the best trailers of the decade as well. I know that's not really applicable, but fantastic trailer.
That first teaser trailer was really good.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. A lot of the trailers that they didn't really spoil a lot of the movie. They didn't go too far.
I think Nolan's always like that. I think Nolan loves holding back on where these plots are going. I feel like Inception was the same way. Maybe it's different for the Batman movies because they're Batman movies, but like I feel like for his.
Yeah, and Tenet's only 6-7 months out from now, and I feel like I know pretty much nothing about that movie still.
Very little. It looks fantastic though. This feels like Inception level Nolan.
Yeah. I've seen the trailer and the prologue, and I still don't really quite understand what the movie is, in a very exciting way. But and it makes me feel like Interstellar did. Like, oh, okay, we're doing fun things here. And and I think the scope in Interstellar got pretty huge. I'm not sure it's going to be quite that big, but the fact that Nolan did manage that incredible scope in that movie, and still kind of tied it through with this human drama at the core.
I don't know if it's recency bias, because this is another new one, and I did want to get some Tarantino on the list, and because he was a little bit of a controversial figure now, but I really do like all his movies, and so I went with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for my number 47. It's I mean, it's Tarantino doing his thing. It's kind of I think a lot of people criticize it where it's like, oh, it's just a boring like hangout movie where not much happens. But I think that's what Tarantino's so good at, is like he can really just suck you into a scene when it's just like, people talking or walking around or whatever. But the performances in this are great. The way they kind of just transformed like, LA back into like, whatever the 50s, 60s or what was it, 70s?
1969 specifically.
1969. There you go.
Well, I mean, there's a time jump at one point, so it probably doesn't start in 1969, but it definitely ends in 1969.
Yeah, but the way they're able just to transform it, just everything just really looks great in it, and I really like every movie they've put out this decade. Django Unchained and Hateful Eight, I both really like, but I think this one, I don't know, just again, maybe it's because I saw it more recently, but I don't know, it just kind of stood out to me. It's one I've been thinking about a lot more.
47 is a family movie. It's Paddington.
Okay, believe it or not, I saw this. In fact, I think I saw this twice in theaters.
It's so good. I couldn't believe it was good. I actually ignored it because I thought the trailers were just awful. I'm like, that's an annoying movie that nobody's going to go see. But then, the buzz was really good for it, and eventually it was on HBO, and I just watched it and went, wow, I really love that marmalade-eating bear. Like, it's really stylized, and the comedy really works well. It's super dry, super British, but it doesn't bother me, surprisingly.
Yeah, I mean, British comedy does tend to be really dry.
Yeah.
And when done well, it works really well. But I don't remember if I was dragged to both showings or if it was just the second one because other people wanted to see it. And I was like, oh, sure, it was good enough to see a second time, so I won't complain.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the sort of movie that I typically go and see. This was back when I had an unlimited card and I could go see as much as I wanted. So I might have just saw it to kill time because I hadn't seen it. It was like the only thing playing I hadn't seen. And it's a solid movie for what it is. Like,
I agree. Like, it was such a surprise, and I ended up showing it to a bunch of friends too. Like, you need to watch this. It's really good.
My number 47 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This was, I don't want to say a surprise per se, because I was I was saying that a lot when reacting to one of the other lists. I kept, every so often I would say, oh, this was such a surprise. And I realized I kept saying that because I think that a lot of the movies that stick with you are the ones that come out of nowhere and you don't see coming. It's not the sequels or whatever that you're anticipating for a year or 2 years until they come out. It's the ones that just pop up like lock that just go like, oh. Like,
yeah, I've got a good handful of movies like that on my. Don't get me wrong, there are some other one, some other things that are sequels and franchises, but there are a lot of these things that just kind of come out of nowhere.
But Spider-Verse, obviously, from the very first trailer, which was a good year or so before the movie came out, it was quite a long time before the actual film, immediately the animation style said, hey, look at me, I'm interesting and different, I look like no other animated movie.
It was stylish, and I'm sure there are people who don't like the style, and that's fair enough. That's a taste thing, but it was different. You cannot argue that. Yeah.
So I was excited. I didn't know necessarily how good the actual movie was going to be in terms of story and so on and so on, but I was excited for how it looked. And luckily, the movie ended up actually being a very tight, unrelenting film about the multiverse, basically, and different versions of Spider-Man, and it played with all those ideas and had fun with them. It introduced Miles Morales to the mainstream public who, unless they read comic books, didn't really know who that was. Maybe he's been one of the animated series, I don't know, I don't watch the cartoons, but like in terms of a major motion picture, this was like, hey, here's Miles, here's the other Spider-Man, here's the newer Spider-Man, the younger one, and did that in a way that I think made an entire generation who's going to grow up. It's one of those things where, like right now in comic books, like, people typically still gravitate towards the original versions of the characters, but I'm very curious in 20 years' time when all the people who saw Spider-Verse as a kid are the ones who are about 30 years old buying comic books, Like, is there more of an emphasis on Miles? Is it more 50-50 because of the fan base? It's essentially spawned because of that movie. Now, very funny, very witty, had a good heart at the center of the story, and it's a true origin story in the sense it's about him finding himself so that he can actually be the Spider-Man that he's supposed to be, and it does it with, fairly effortless. It feels that way. I mean, obviously, I knew it was very difficult, but there's just those little technical things like Miles being at a lower frame rate than everything else until he gets good at things at the end. Like, that's just such a simple little thing where he looks like he's just off the whole time until he clicks into place, and they're like, oh, that's a simple little trick. It works really well. Good soundtrack as well. So,
46. The movie probably you wouldn't have guessed that I would have on here, but it's one of the ones I've only seen once. But it's Locke. Tom Hardy against himself in a car. That man. That's it. The strength of the movie, like the script's there, like for him to have these moments, but it's him talking to himself in the mirror for a good portion of it. It's him talking on the phone. For those that don't know, this is a small movie from, I want to say, 2014. That there's an emergency, and Tom Hardy's character has to get from one part of England to the other in a hurry, and he has to leave work where he's a very important person for this concrete pour, and he needs to be there. But there's this other emergency he needs to get to, and so it's him dealing with the consequences of that. His family wondering where he's at because he was supposed to be home, and him running off, and it's really good. There are parts that really stand out.
It's a really great script because it does such a great job of slowly revealing why this is important to him, why he is dropping everything to go do this, and like him dealing with everything. It's a character study of a movie. Everything's about him and who he is, why he's doing what he's doing, why he feels he needs to do this, despite the fact that it's kind of ruining his career and possibly his family life and everything else. But over the course of the movie, it's just him. He does all of this on his own. Sitting in a car. It's impressive.
And the line, she is distressed. Unintentional comedy. But when it hits, when you think about it later and his delivery of it, Hardy's great. Again, there'll be more from him later.
My 46 is Skyfall, because I'm a huge Bond fan, and this is where I think this is probably the first one on my list where Pete's like, ugh. And I'm not gonna lie, he's going to feel the same way about the next 2 or 3.
The only good thing about James Bond is that it led to Jason Voorhees doing his version of the opening at the start of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives.
Which I've now seen and can say, yes, quite funny. But no, I love Skyfall. It's a really well balanced Bond film in that it's a lot more personal than a lot of the others. It's about he has this relationship with M and the way that goes, that's often not really there in Bond films. They're often pretty impersonal. As much as I like them, I like the fun side of them. This one managed to be a lot more personal, have these connections with these characters, and still have the big action set pieces that Bond is famous for. And the last 30-40 minutes, whatever that is, up in the house is wonderful. I think that's such great Bond action stuff. Yeah, and there's I've got my Bond stuff, I've got my gadgets, I got my core cast, and I think it's Craig's second best performance as Bond still. So yeah.
So this was kind of a hard one, because I, especially after seeing The Rise of Skywalker, I feel like I kind of turned my back on the Disney Star Wars movies. Like, I was really like hot on them at first, but it just seems like diminishing returns, and then like Rise of Skywalker just kind of makes me not like the whole trilogy as much because it just feels like everything was so pointless and aimless. But again, if I kind of just take it on its own, I really did like The Force Awakens. So yeah, 46, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. It's taking it as a whole now, it might be a little bit more annoying, but I can't argue that at the time when I saw it, I was like in love. Like, it felt like, oh my God, Star Wars is back. This is so cool and fun and exciting. And I love these new characters. Ultimately, they end up going down a road that sucks and, kind of takes out a lot of the, artistry of, what's so great about these movies. But just taking on its own and as a time capsule, I really loved The Force Awakens when it came out.
No comment.
My number 46 is Captain Phillips with Tom Hanks and I don't know the other guy's name.
But you can quote his line.
I'm the captain now. It's that guy. It's about it's based on a true story. I have heard that people who know Captain Phillips, the real guy, are not thrilled with the adaptation because it takes some dramatic liberties and makes him into more of a hero than he actually was. But as far as the movie goes, it is riveting, and the acting is superb. And I rented this one a couple of times because I wanted to watch it again. Like the scenes are really, really tense. It's a really well made thriller, and I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's well done. I wasn't like super anticipating that when it was coming out, to be honest. It was one of those ones where, because correct me if I'm wrong, was it Paul Greengrass who directed this?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. Maybe it wasn't.
I don't have the IMDb open or anything.
Maybe I'm thinking of someone else, but like I wasn't, for whatever reason, I wasn't like super excited about it, and was pleasantly surprised at kind of just A, how tense it was, but B, just how kind of like emotional it did get towards the end. Because it was
there's a scene at the end where he breaks down in sickbay, and it kills me. It's probably some of the best acting I've ever seen. Farhad Abdi is the name of the other guy, and Paul Greengrass is the director.
I think what makes it work is that it's kind of like, it's almost like Die Hard, but there's no John McClane. That's kind of the pitch. Yeah. Almost is like it's Die Hard, but there's no hero saving the day. It's just kind of like they have to just deal with it as it is and try and negotiate. It's almost like if Ellis in Die Hard was the hero, but he wasn't a scumbag.
Mm-hmm.
You know, imagine.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Imagine Captain Phillips coming out of this guy who's like, I'm the captain now, right? And he's like, look, I've seen 60 Minutes, right? I know these guys. They're ahead of the curve. They know what they're doing. You know? Captain, boob. I can sort you out here.
Yeah. Well done.
My number 46 is Annihilation. This came out a couple of years ago. It is a science fiction film starring Natalie Portman. And I think Tessa Thompson was in this as well, if I remember right.
Yeah, she was, yeah.
And a few others, and it's about this mysterious part of like the planet. That this asteroid or something has hit this lighthouse, and an expanding zone that is weird from a scientific perspective. Lots of anomalies. There's this sort of bubble sort of going out, and the men they sent in basically never came back, and they theorized that maybe sending in an all-women crew to investigate might actually yield better results. So. And it's about them going through and trying to discover what's going on, encountering very weird anomalies, mutations, things like that. But ultimately, they're trying to get to the center to try and figure out what this thing is and what's causing it all. And it's this psychological, trippy experience, part horror in there as well. And it's funny because, you know, when this came out, we said this a bunch of times when we talked about it, that it coming out about 6 months after we watched Stalker for the first time almost was a disservice to it, because it is very much a spiritual successor to Stalker in a lot of ways. And Stalker is a masterpiece. It's a 10 out of 10. I love that movie.
It's a disservice to the point where I'm supposed now it's not on my list because I feel like I need to watch it again, removed enough from Stalker that I can kind of give it a real fair shake, and maybe it'll bump on. Maybe it would have made this list had I rewatched it.
Well, this is the thing. In time, I think I've grown to like it more. I think the ending, which obviously I'm not going to spoil, but gets kind of almost under the skin-esque in its sci-fi weirdness. But there's wonderful visuals. There's a fantastic horror element with I'll just say a bear and just leave it at that. Which is very unique, and this is obviously Alex Garland who did Ex Machina. This is a very interesting follow-up, and it's one of these things where I love how experimental it is, despite the fact that I'm saying it kind of falls in the footsteps of this, old 70s Russian movie. But
I think that goes to show how little else there is like that movie.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So Annihilation is my 46. That'll bring an end to the first episode of our top 50 movies of the decade. Look out for part 2 soon, but hopefully you enjoyed this. Obviously, I'll take this time to thank you for watching or listening. Please do everything you can to support us. You can like and you can comment, you can subscribe, you can ding the bell on YouTube for notifications. You can support us financially over at patreon.com/MildFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and keep all the content coming. That's all the movie podcast, the comic book podcast, all the TV reviews, all the stuff we do. So go and have a look. But yes, and if you haven't checked it out, me and Tim did a top 50 horror movies of the decade. Me and Tower did a top 25 sci-fi movies. Me and Carr did a top 25 TV shows of the decade. This top 50 movies is kind of the finale to all that stuff. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching movies, guys, and if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.